in the process of training. And whereas in other parts of the world, it's not a big challenge. So we spent a bit of time trying to understand why this difference. But we also spoke a lot about the process, how non-formal TVET takes place, how a trainer is brought on board, how a participant is brought on board, and the roles they play, and how we plug the gaps. So this is what our discussion was mainly about.
Super, thanks a lot. But it's true, you're right. You had a colleague who documented. Maybe Eva, no? You were the one in this session. Is something to add that you would like to bring up here?
I enjoyed it very much, and I took some further notes. Let me just look at them. So we heard that in Uganda, I think you have good experience with your approach because you blend life skills at the intersection of skills-based training and small enterprise work-based trainings, and that your trainings also are very inclusive, including pregnant girls and young mothers, and that you are providing in your trainings also psychosocial support to the young people. And to overcome maybe challenges, you also offer a testing phase of 2 to 3 weeks in the small enterprises, so that the young people can actually find out if the training is right for them. And after the 2 to 3 weeks testing phase, they can change if they want to. I thought that was also a very good idea. And we heard that in Moldova and Armenia, for example, one of the biggest challenges is the involvement and retainment of businesses in the informal trainings. Here we heard that in Uganda, the businesses are very small and informal, and that they are contracted for the period of the informal trainings, and that these very small informal businesses are also supported with the bureaucratic processes, so the dropout rates are actually quite low in Uganda. But we see that there is a difference between Uganda, the setting in Uganda, and the settings in Armenia and Moldova, where they face bigger challenges in retaining actually private small businesses in offering the trainings. And then maybe another point that we heard from the colleague in Lebanon, who is working for a GIZ TVET program there, where they develop competency-based trainings and offer them to employees in the private businesses to actually convince the businesses to participate in the informal trainings. So I think these are the main points that I took down. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, Eva. That sounds really very rich and inspiring in your session. Yeah, from the session 2, Abraham, if you don't mind, I would report, and maybe you can then add what had been discussed. So that was a really rich discussion from the YES project, Youth Employment Through Skills Development. Helvetas implemented project in Tanzania, and their special approach is this result-based financing in their non-formal training. So the training providers receiving the installments by the projects really based on specific criteria, which is really then ensuring that the training providers are actually doing a high quality training job, which I find quite interesting, this approach, and it leads also to the fact that that the training itself is highly relevant, and they work with the trainings, implementation of the trainings with artisans, so it has a strong practical orientation, helping also for a quick assimilation of the graduates towards employment. Of course, we realize there are some downsides or challenges, in particular when it comes to the formal certification of it. So this micro-credential process is more difficult and really has then to be aligned with the process of recognition of prior learning and assessments done by the official authorities, which has a completely different process behind and which requires much more formalities, which the project at this stage is not doing. But in practical terms, the transition to employment can be really measured, and I guess at this stage is also one of the important factors. Our colleague from Nigeria was then also questioning generally the sustainability of this result-based financing, in particular when a donor, a development partner, pulls out of such a project. And I think that's really an important aspect to see. And we realized, yes, this result-based financing is project dominated and then of course difficult to continue when a donor is out. But on the other hand, the triggering and starting with this training, thanks to this financing, brings the artisans already on board. And we saw the confirmation that thanks to these trainings, the artisans keep on with these young people. They employ them, and even if they don't employ them permanently, they recruit them for short contractual activities. So also here we can see on this impact level that employment can be generated. And we also heard that from the bicycle sector, which is really highly informally organized as a reference case, how these non-formal trainings could be done. So there are always market scans before any training starts with the training. So we need to see what is the actual demand in this specific sector. This usually takes 2 to 3 weeks. Then for those who are conducting the trainings, the artisans, there is a quality check to be done that they are in line with the expectation. That's done then by the project. A contract will be done with those artisans who will conduct the trainings, takes another week, and then a pedagogy training of 2 days. So basically the whole process to start non-formal training takes about 1 month, sorry. And after 2 years, every 2 years, the project does tracer studies to really ensure what is the actual transition into employment. And so far, the data looks really promising. That's from the YES project from our side. Abraham, do you want to add something or?
No, thank you. I think you've covered everything very well. Yeah, thanks
Perfect.
a lot for very good summary.
Thanks. Yeah, then let's hear from Nepal, from our Swiss contact colleagues in Nepal, National Vocational Qualification System.
Yes, I can report back. In our session, we looked at recognition of prior learning specifically. Our colleagues there are supporting the implementation of the National Vocational Qualification System. And what stuck with me was, we discussed many points, but one of the points that stuck with me was the question of how to involve the private sector to ensure that the procedure is developed and remains relevant. So in Nepal, the private sector in different sectors is represented in the sector skills councils, which is in charge of developing occupational standards, and they are also involved in the assessments, RPL assessment. So they have a role to play. However, we also discussed funding for RPL. That is a quite comparably expensive procedure, and currently there is there are allocation from the government at different levels, but to ensure sustainability, there needs to be also private sector funding for RPL, which currently is still a little bit difficult. Then the second point is awareness about RPL, both among the people to be assessed, how to reach out to them to make this opportunity available, and also among employers. And our colleagues in Nepal are reaching out through professional associations and also through radio, through public radio announcements to make this more knowable among the general public. And so we had exchange about the target group for RPL. So in Nepal, a large number of people who go through these procedures are informal workers, so people who gain some experience in the workplace already, or returning from the Middle East and have gained some skills there. We had one colleague from GIZ in Jordan share that the target group there is more refugees, Syrian refugees who benefit from RPL. So also very interesting exchange on how to establish a formal system in a country with many stakeholders and institutions involved. That's all from me. Prem, would you like to add anything?
No, perfectly done, Barbara. So you have covered all the points that we have discussed. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect. Yes. So you see that we have started also the recording again. So we will make sure that all these inputs will be covered, and after the BarCamp you will receive then also this information on each session. But we have one more session, the SEVA Self-Employed Woman Academy. The discussion over there. How did it go? I don't know. It's Namrata or Lisa.
Yes,
Can you give us some feedback?
Okay.
Lisa.
Yes, Namrata gave us a great presentation with lots of insights on how the SEVA Academy works, especially the part for the holistic literacy program, and how this literacy program acts also as a gateway to further training. And afterwards offers vocational and digital skills. But she explained to us how step by step they work on tailoring the literacy educational offer to the needs of the people of the community in the slums. And that starts by visiting community meetings, register learners, identify local women to become the teachers. So I think that's a very interesting point as well, that the teachers are trained within the program to be able to train other women. And then that also they manage to have a low dropout rate, because in this pre-implementation step, they really find an agreement with the people that want the training on the topics, on the teacher, and also on the time and the location, so that it's really tailor-made in all aspects. And I think that's really interesting, because many programs say that they're tailor-made to the needs of their participants, but sometimes it's really not that easy to understand what that means in the process. So that was rather insightful. And also that there are monitoring tools, evaluation tools, and always in the end with the certification and the celebration of the certification, they try to offer to the community the link to the formal education offers that they could go on to afterwards. In the discussion, we had two specific questions. So one was on the flexibility on the training offer. So once the agreement with the group is settled on when and where the training is held, there are most of the time not many possibilities to change that. But because it is agreed with the participants, the commitment is high and the dropout rate is low. And then we have the questions about male-dominated careers accessible to women and how to tackle this. And Namrata just told that there are many success stories from women going into male occupations through this literacy program in the beginning and then accessing the other training offers. Even though it is difficult because, you know, for example, driving is not a common skill or that families want to have women in the lower classes because it could mean too much freedom for the women. But still, it is like managed to get there step by step. And then there was the question about access to credit. And Namrata told us about the financial literacy programs they have woven into the SEBA Academy, and how this again is not only about accessing credit, but how to build up the knowledge about personal finances, about saving money to build up, let's say, a credit score, and then in the end be eligible for credit. So also there, they've seen many success stories from women that start with basically no or very low budget, getting credibility and also like managing their finances on their own and for the families in the end. Yes, I hope that sums up more or less what we talked about. Namrata, anything or anyone else from the session wanting to complement?
Thanks, Lisa. You know, there are 2-3 things which I would like to share over here, and that is the whole question of certification. And it is a constraint, but it can be solved with partnerships with training centers, changing the mindsets of the training centers also, because they are not used to this kind of a group. They are used to more middle-class educated people with whom they talk. So there is a full exercise which institutes or organizations have to do, partnering with technical centers to certify. And this is a big process. That other thing that I think we shared and I shared is more about most of the students who come to us, they are either drop out from a mainstream school or who have never been to a school. So linking them to open schooling system. You know, our country has an open schooling system. So going back to school at a certain age is difficult. But how do you handle that? Motivating our people to go back to open schooling, be at any age, to do your 10th grade, to do your 12th grade. You know, that is something that I would like to add over here. And the third thing I think, which is very important, that these are step-by-step trainings for individuals. But there's a large chunk of trainings that we need to do in non-formal education, which is for groups and collectives, like the cooperatives, the self-help groups, the federations, the associations, which are very technical. But there is a big chunk of trainings that need to be done over there. And then finally, the sustainability towards employability. Sustainability not just of trainees, but also of the institutes which are doing it.
Super. Thank you so much.